The British police in the United Kingdom are just following orders. This is the excuse that we are getting on a daily basis from the police officers across this kingdom. Those who are apparently told to follow the orders to police morality. Those who accidentally use their different pronouns and misgender someone. Or those who go around and tell people to speak English in England. This is the most ludicrous example of a terrible policing I've seen in this country in a very, very long time. And we've had so many different things happening in recent years and months. So the British police approached someone, there was a bit of a row, and he said, I've been told that you asked someone to speak English. Clearly a foreigner, a migrant, somebody, right? An ethnic minority. That is not just insensitive, ladies and gentlemen. You could go to jail. Because that's a hate crime. Crime and hate. Yeah, watch this.
If you do, that would be really handy for us. But apparently during some conversations between yourself, apparently you have alleged, we weren't here, so I don't know you said it, but you've alleged to say, speak English? Or words to that effect?
Speak clearly.
Speak clearly.
No,
okay.
The gentleman's partially deaf.
Yeah, he said speak clearly.
Yeah.
So I couldn't even hear him.
No, and that's fine, and that's why we've just come to speak, because potentially someone could perceive that as a hate crime.
Did we just know this was going to happen?
No,
didn't we?
People, if someone says to me, officer, I believe this, then we need to look at it, because someone's potentially reporting to me as a hate crime.
The problem apparently is not just that it could be seen as a hate crime. The police officer himself said, well, I also believe it is. So actually, this one is not just following orders. He's loving the orders. How can it be a hate crime? Is everything is breathing in Europe and Western Europe and Britain a hate crime? Because I think that's where we're going to get to, ladies and gentlemen. But the problem with British policing is that some of you know, if you've been watching this channel, we have two-tier policing in this country. So, for example, when you have this idiot, this Islamist pro-Pali, oh yeah, the pro-Palestinian side, who went to the counter-protester side, where the Jews were standing, and the British patriots, and essentially started doing gestures of shooting at them and everything else. And by the way, there was a whole context to this clip I'm about to show you, threatening to attack the Jews and the counter-protesters. Things completely were ignored by the police. This is the two-tier policing that we talk about on a regular basis. Let's go to this video quickly. For those who remember, this is the same guy who kept going around inciting violence and threatening people and basically saying all this stuff. That's fine. The police were standing right there. That is not a concern. No, I'm not going to call this a hate crime. At least it's a concern that should be investigated. The police should have a chat with this guy saying, would you like to do something to these people? You know, just investigate, ask. But apparently that's not really an issue for the police in this Islamic kingdom. So there has been a lot of reaction, actually some interesting reaction on social media about this story, about this Speak English story. Marcia from the US said, so if you misgender the cop on top of not understanding a word that they are saying, you get double time. If you are white, on top of it, you will do a lifetime sentence. Got it. So this refers to the, because we got two-tier policing, but we also have two-tier justice. So the sentencing guidelines that were recently announced, obviously they had to suspend them for a while, said that if you're white, you will get a tougher punishment compared to if you're ethnic minority. So all people have to do, just go get some fake spray tan, just tan up. Just make sure your skin tone is a little bit more tan, and you can do whatever you want, right? We had the silent majority saying on X that telling someone to speak English is a hate crime. What the actual F is wrong with this country? This is the most British way to respond to this. Like, people are just baffled that we are getting this level of idiotic tyranny, and nobody knows how to address this. People complain about it, but we don't know. How do we fight back against this one? Do we tell our MPs? Because MPs know, and they're not doing anything about it. Do you protest? Nobody cares. Or are you going to do a revolution? Well, that's treason. So it's just a lose-lose situation at this point. Ethan said, hate speech laws are inherently prone to overreach, as the absence of a clear, objective definition allows virtually any expression to be construed as hateful, depending on the interpreter's perspective. This subjectively opens the door to arbitrary enforcement and the suppression of legitimate discourse. So absolutely spot on by this person, Ethan. Not just the fact that it's subjective, who's going to be in charge of where the red line is, who died and made you God, but actually the problem is that they are not necessarily enforcing existing laws, common sense laws that we already had in this country. The police officers have been given power to go around the streets in this country and police morality. We effectively have morality police, just like the Islamic Republic of Iran. The morality police in Iran do the same thing. They go around, tell people how to talk, attitude, what to dress like, what to wear. Back in the day, women weren't allowed to, for example, have chewing gum. They will check to make sure you don't have chewing gum in your mouth. And they do the same thing even right now in Iran. Now we're doing the same thing, but just on a slightly more moderate level, right? Neil said, this must be very embarrassing for the police. While I would like to think so, there are so many good police officers, and I know a few of them, but what about the rest of them? I don't think they are embarrassed by this. Apart from the few who are good police officers, I think the rest of the leadership and the establishment, they seem to be proud of this. Because of all the backlash that we've had over the last few years, the anti-woke backlash, you would have thought that there would have been, some sort of correction, U-turn. Just like how in Hollywood, Disney, Bud Light, all the companies, corporations who went too woke, they had to basically make a bit of an adjustment because they were losing their customers. So that's the beauty of free market capitalism. Because you lose your customers, you lose your profit, you're going to go down. So you're going to have to change. Whereas when it comes to the state, because they have unlimited money, they take tax money, they can print money whenever they want to, they don't have to respond to anybody. We can't hold them to account. That's why the backlash doesn't exist. Kieran says, I know just following orders and everything, but if I were one of these officers, I would have far too much self-respect to go along with this nonsense. We are at the precipice, and these people who are supposed to work for us need to decide what side they are on. To me, at least, a comfy pension wouldn't be good enough of a motivator to make me betray my own people and our values. I think one thing that Kieran didn't mention in this is that over the last 10, 20 years or so, they've been brainwashing people. So when you are joining the police force, actually you can't say police force, it's police service in the UK, because force is too forceful. When you join the police in this country, the training that they give you, the induction and the environment that you're in with all the other woke tards, especially if you're young, you get used to that atmosphere. Your environment is extremely important. As you know, just like in schools for kids and obviously workplace, it's the same thing. So I can easily see a lot of police officers actually have already been brainwashed. Not all of them, but a lot of them will probably actually agree with these morality police nonsense. That's the issue. Pete says, I've had it the other way. I live overseas and I'm always asked if I understand the local language in the local language by locals. I don't feel hated, and while I'll never speak like a native, I make an effort and I'm appreciated for doing so. If you live somewhere for years and make no effort to fit in or learn the language, how can you be a productive member of that society? It's absolutely spot on. Even if a Brit goes, we have Brits going on holiday, or Americans, when they go to Spain or wherever they go, they don't need to learn Spanish. And then people always kick off, oh, look at these arrogant Americans and Canadians and Brits just want everyone to speak English when they go abroad for holiday. That's holiday. You're just visiting a place. But if you're living somewhere, and we have Brits living permanently in France, in Germany, in Portugal, everywhere. And they tend to also, because you have to learn the language. If you want to be, as this person said, a productive member of that society. People go to Japan, you need to learn Japanese. We've got Westerners live in Japan. They speak Japanese because they have to. It's common sense. How is that not a hate crime? Because we only hate ourselves. It's itself Western guilt and white and anti-white hatred that's been spread around like a virus.